Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. I am set to fly to Thailand early tomorrow morning for a business retreat, so looking forward to that. It's always good to catch up with other business owners and just be in an environment where you're there to learn, grow, and network with other like-minded people. So I always tell people, any chance you can get in rooms like that where you're surrounded by that energy and other people that are, not only doing things that you do, but are doing similar things in adjacent industries or just business in general, because you tend to just open your mind in a different way when you speak to these sorts of people and you're in these rooms, and it's really good for getting the mental cogs turning. And a lot of the time, a lot of great ideas come from these. They're like think tanks or masterminds. A lot of great ideas come from this that you can take back into your business, and they're really good. Things like, your local chamber of commerce, highly recommend you join that. Everyone should have one in their local area. BNI groups are great depending on cost and what sort of people are in there, but just any sort of venue or networking event where you can get in there and network and be amongst other business owners, they're always great, and I highly recommend it. So this thing I'm going to in Thailand, it's called Success School. So I'm going there to learn about a lot of stuff. It's very big on paid ads, so we're going to be learning a lot about paid meta ads, which is something I'd like to get a bit more in tune with. Obviously, we don't run paid ads for the cleaning business, but it's something that I'd like to have in the holster, and also something that I can pass down and teach to some of my coaching clients who are kind of at that stage where they want to scale up with paid ads. So I'd like to have that in my repertoire and use that either for other people or for myself at some point in the future. So looking forward to that. And above all else, besides the learning and the growth, I'm just excited to be in that environment with those people and that energy. It's really, really good. And you always come away with a stride in your step. So we're going to Koh Samui, if I think I'm saying that right. Staying at the Hyatt. That's where the event is. It looks beautiful. I'm a little bit bummed out that I broke my hand, so I won't be able to enjoy it as much as I was hoping for. And I can't swim in their incredible infinity pool, which I'm so devastated about that. But anyway, I digress. That's happening, and I'll definitely share a bit about what I learn on that retreat in the next podcast episode. So, but for now, I want to talk about net promoter scores and why they're really important and can be a big needle mover and a big shift in your business. So you may have noticed a lot of big companies, they send through emails or SMSs, and it'll ask you to rate certain things 1 through 10. That's called a net promoter score. And it's the easiest way to get feedback from clients, especially on a large scale. Like it's a hard ask to get someone to give real open and honest feedback in written format. Like if you're asking someone to write you about their feedback on their experience in your business, it's a hard thing to do because one, people just simply don't really have the time, and it's not something they want to sit down and think about and then, give you a well thought out message. And at the same time, it's like, they feel a bit embarrassed about it. They don't want to tell you harsh criticisms, and they don't want to go into detail about what they're not happy with, because a lot of the time people are happy, but there's like little things that kind of eat away at their satisfaction or the trust or reliability aspect of it. And they're generally not going to say these things because overall they're happy, but you may not realize that you're dropping the ball in certain areas. So net promoter scores are really good, where you can get your customers to just rate 1 through 10 different aspects of the business. And the way that these ratings work is they're split into 3 different categories. So number 1, you've got the detractors. So that's people who score about 0 through 6. And these are people that are generally unhappy or underwhelmed clients. So if they had an average score of 0 to 6, there's a lot of room for improvement there. And it likely means that they're probably not going to recommend you. They're at a risk of canceling. They're more likely to leave negative reviews, and they may already be shopping around for another cleaner, or at least mentally they're thinking about it. So it's really important to get this feedback, because it not only helps you improve your service overall, but it's actually going to save you a lot of money in the long run and make you more money by increasing your retention rate for your clients. So we've got detractors, that's people who score 0 through 6. We've got the passives, this is people who score 7 to 8. And you might be thinking, that's not a very generous range, but we'll get into that later. So detractors, 0 to 6. We've got the passives, which is 7 or 8. These clients are satisfied, like they're pretty happy, like they're okay with the service, but they're not enthusiastic, and they're not likely to, be a raving fan of yours that's going to refer you more work and, shout your name from the rooftops and everything. So this means that unlike the detractors, they're probably not angry. They're not excited either. So they're not actively promoting you, and they are open to switching to a competitor if, a better offer appears or something more convenient pops up. So they're stable, but they're not really loyal. And the passives, they're often the quiet ones. It's like they're the silent majority most of the time. Most people are passive. So we can think about this 7 to 8 score as the average, even though you'd think like average would be around 5. But the passives, which are scoring 7 to 8, they're kind of like the average, just getting by client. Like nothing is really keeping them in it besides the fact that they don't want to switch or whatever it may be. So they're usually quiet. They're usually unemotional. They're probably not going to leave you a review, even if you're asking for it and even if you're offering some sort of incentive. And they're certainly, or almost certainly, not referring more work to you. So your job is to convert them into promoters, which is people that score 9 or 10. And these are your strongest clients. These are the raving fans that trust you. They would refer you or refer you actively already. They're unlikely to churn. They're like the base of all of your reviews. Like all of your reviews have probably come from these promoters that score 9 to 10. And they're your long-term revenue foundation. They're the people that are going to stick around through thick and thin until the end of times. Like I've got clients that I think it's like my second client ever, my third client ever, fourth client, and sixth client that I ever had are all still with me to this day. And beyond that, I don't even remember. I've probably got like 7, 8, 9, all of them. They might still be with me, but I just can't remember. So those people are promoters. They've stuck around through all of that. They've left reviews. They've referred lots of work. In fact, the third client that I ever had, I think I talked about this in a previous episode. She referred one of our big commercial contracts to us because she works at the company. She got us that job. It's like $100,000 a year. Happy days, right? So those are the promoters. They're the people that trust you. They're going to refer you. They're unlikely to cancel the service or churn. They're going to be giving you reviews, and that's going to help boost your business as well. And they're the long-term foundation for building revenue and building profit. So the promoters are generally satisfied. Like they're going to be really satisfied with the work and enough to tell their friends and family about it, enough to like talk on social media about it. And they're super confident in the service. And as a result of that, they're also low maintenance. So you're not going to have to be checking in with them and like following up with them and being kept up at night, wondering if they're happy or not and if they're going to cancel at any given point. And so those are the 3 categories of the Net Promoter Scale. And it's intentionally harsh. It's like intentionally strict, where the 0 to 6, that's like a risk category. 7 to 8 is like mild satisfaction, or like your average client that they're not really that solid. They have the potential and they have the capacity to just leave and go somewhere else. And then the 9s and 10s, that's where your strong loyalty is. So it forces you to aim for excellence, not just good enough, which is where a lot of people kind of fall into. A lot of people are in that good enough trap. And if you've read the book by Jim Collins, Good to Great, you'll understand why good is the enemy of great. The great businesses are the ones that outperform the good ones every day of the week. And a lot of people are just stuck in that cycle of, everything's good enough, everything's okay. But as a result, all of their customers are in that risk or that mild category of like 0 to 6, 7 to 8. And they're never really going to be able to grow past a certain number because they're just going to constantly have this churn, and like they're going to cycle through clients like clockwork because they haven't addressed the core underlying issue of these satisfaction issues. And that, you might touch base with clients. Like a lot of people will do that after the first clean. They'll just email and ask for a bit of feedback. And, a lot of clients will, for the most part, like I said, they'll come back and they'll say they're happy and everything was great, but there may be little things that they weren't happy with. Maybe somewhere in the initiation process or the onboarding process, the email took like 3 days to get to them and they were a bit unhappy about that. And maybe the cleaner rocked up like 10 minutes late and they were kept waiting for an extra 10 minutes when they had to get out of the house. But then like the clean was great. And so they said they were happy. But if you just sent through a net promoter score for all of these different things, they may have rated you lower for communication and punctuality. And so that gives you a bit more insight that you wouldn't have had otherwise if you just asked, hey, were you happy with the service? Because yes, they were happy with the clean, but there were other things that they weren't so happy with. And if you drop the ball there and you continue to do that without addressing it, or without making any sort of change to it, that's when people start to drop off. So that's why This is such an important system to have, and it's why it's so simple, but it's so powerful. And I want to kind of get into some of the key areas where you should be doing these net promoter scores. And there's a lot of different software that you can use for this. Like there's you can do this with Typeform. Even we use Typeform in our business. There's a net promoter score there where they can just drag a slider across and rate things 1 through 10, and there's like logic attached to that as well. So if they rate something low, it can like take them to an actual like written answer, and they can give a bit more detail about why that is. But generally, like, that's the bigger picture of it. The detractors, which are 0 to 6, they're going to cost you money. The passives, which are 6 and 7, 7 and 8, they're the ones that are going to keep you stagnant. And the promoters, which are the 9s and 10s, they grow the business. So there's 4 main categories that you should really track in your cleaning business with these net promoter scores. And those are quality, reliability, communication, and value. And then in those 4 things, there's a bunch of subcategories or a bunch of other things under that, like reliability, that can come with punctuation, and then communication, that's about how you show up. It can be quality, that can be the cleaning itself. It can be presentation. It can be like the little details. It can be all of these things. Even like you can get into the real nitty gritty stuff here. So, but those are the 4 kind of umbrellas that you want to be able to track. And so this is going to help you in a lot of ways, because if you want to grow your, let's say, your Google review base, if you have people that are rating you 9 through 10, you can just automatically send them a Google review link, and they're probably just going to leave you a review without any sort of other prompt or offer. But if you're sending it to people that are rating you like 0 through 6, they're not going to do that at all. In fact, they're probably going to be unhappy about it. Like they're obviously unhappy with the service, and now they're getting this email asking for a review. Like they're probably going to feel offended by that. And so you can start to create these workflows where if someone rates 9 through 10, you automatically just send them a Google review link, and you send them like a thank you message and whatnot. And if people rate 0 through 6, then it's an immediate follow-up. You can get on the phone with them, you can send them a message, but it should be an immediate follow-up to dig deeper into that. Like you may not want to ask for details right then and there in the net promoter, because it might, like I said, turn some people off. But if you just let them rate 0 through 6 without giving any sort of explanation, that at least gives you the indicator that they're not happy. So then you can get on the phone with them or send them an email and start to dig a little bit deeper and find out where you've dropped the ball or where you've missed the mark. And so you want to be doing these things, you can have like a certain routine for doing these, or a certain basis for doing it. So the most important times to really send out these surveys, these net promoter scores, would be after the first clean. And if you have recurring clients like we do, then you want to be sending it quarterly, and also after complaint resolution. So if you've had a complaint, or someone's gotten a free clean, or there's been a damage and you've had to replace something, or whatever the thing may be, you should send net promoter scores after that to make sure that they were happy with the complaint resolution, because that's a really big thing as well. That's where a lot of people kind of miss the mark too when it comes to dealing with complaints and dealing with conflict and feedback. A lot of business owners drop the ball there. So it's really good to get that feedback after something like that, and it's really, really powerful in moving forward. So let's just quickly brainstorm what a net promoter survey could look like for you and your clients. And you're going to have a different business to mine, and pretty much everyone listening to this is going to have a different business, and they're going to run sort of differently. So there won't be a one size fits all thing. Obviously there can be on a very simple level, like if you just ask, rate us 1 through 10 for quality, for communication, that sort of stuff. You'll get answers, but you're not really going to get the full picture. So I'll just kind of spitball some ideas for different promoter scores that you could be asking for feedback on, and you can start to track. And so they could be things in regards to service quality. You can have, a question that's like, what was your overall satisfaction with the clean, 1 through 10? And then you can have, rate our attention to detail 1 through 10, and the thoroughness 1 through 10. And like, if it's a recurring survey that you're sending out, like every quarter, it can be something like, rate our consistency of results. And things like the standard compared to your expectations. That's a really good one as well. So what were their expectations going into the service, and how did the service itself match up to what they were expecting? That's a really good a question to have in there, because it gives you an idea and a little look into their mind. Because if they rate you low, but they were happy with the clean, there may just be some things that they were expecting that you had no idea about. But you're not going to know that unless you just dig a little bit deeper. And so it starts with just getting that number, getting that rating, and then you can start to do some follow-ups, get on the phone with them, all that stuff. So those are some net promoter scores for service quality. And then you've got reliability and like systems and processes as well. So you can ask to get a rating for punctuality. You can get it for, reliability, like showing up as scheduled or not canceling and that sort of stuff. Like, how reliable are we? Rate us 1 through 10. And then there could be the consistency of the assigned cleaner or team. So a lot of people complain that they don't get the same cleaner every time. There's a lot of people that don't care about that. But for the people that do care, if they get a net promoter survey about the consistency of the person that's assigned to their job, they might rate it really low if they've had a different cleaner every time. And that means they're unhappy with it. So that means you can have a bit of a conversation about that. You can address that, or you can fix the problem altogether by just assigning the same person every time. We do that in our business where we've got clients who we know they need to have the same cleaner every time. Like, they are very, very adamant and very strict about that. And then there's other people that just don't care. So we're happy to rotate the cleaners there on a regular basis because it's easier for us from an operational standpoint when we've got changes. But it's something that you should be asking. And other things could be like your ease of booking, like going into systems now, like how easy was it to book with us? And if you're starting to get like a consistent, like a detractor score for the ease of booking, then you've got a bit of a problem there, because if people are finding it hard to book with you, then just imagine how much money you're leaving on the table and missing out on because you don't have a more refined booking process. So ease of booking, or like rescheduling or canceling cleans, that's a really important thing to kind of dig at and get an idea of how your customers are feeling about that. And also things like what's your confidence that we're keeping your property secure? Things like that. And like, if they have lock boxes and they're leaving keys out and that kind of thing, like how are they feeling about the security and their confidence in you being able to keep their property safe? That's a really important thing to have, because for a lot of people, that's one of the most important things when they have a cleaning service is, what is their, like, can I trust these people? Are they going to keep my place secure? Are they going to show up on time? Are they going to lock up when they're finished? Are they going to turn lights off, turn air cons off? Are they going to, report problems to us? All that sort of stuff. So then we move into communication. So, rate us 1 through 10 on our office communication and, responsiveness to messages. That's a big one. A lot of people are really slow to respond to messages, and it erodes trust, and customers just don't like that. So that's a good one as well. You can have one for clarity of pricing and invoicing. A lot of the time, a business owner will get a client. I see this a lot with cleaners, and they just assume that the client knows everything about the pricing of the service. And so they'll like send the invoice, and then the client's like, whoa, this is a lot more than what I was expecting. Or, I wasn't really signed up for this, or I thought I was going to get X, Y, Z, but I didn't. And now I've also gotten charged like a disproportionate amount to what I was expecting. So if your client doesn't have full clarity over pricing and expectations pertaining to that, that could be a big problem as well. So that's a good question to ask. And then you can have, like professionalism, like rate our professionalism in our interactions, whether it be for conflict resolution or just like rescheduling things or pricing conversations. Like, how are we approaching those in a professional manner? Rate us 1 through 10. Then we can go into like trust and experience. Rate us 1 through 10 on our value for money. Like, do you feel that there is a mutual exchange of your dollars and the value you're getting back from us? And other things as well, like indicators of whether or not they're planning to stick around long term. Like, what is your likelihood to continue the service long term? 1 through 10. There's so many questions that you could be asking, and it's really scalable. Like, it's just a very simple question, and they just have to click a number and leave a rating. Like, you can ask a series of 15 questions, and it will take the customer, 30 seconds to answer them. And it gives you so much valuable insight into what they're thinking. And then you can aggregate all of that information and you can create averages. So those are just like a few examples. Like, I was just spitballing if you sat down and really thought about your current customers and your ideal target customers, and you had to think about what's going on in their mind and what sort of areas and aspects of your service that you really want to excel in, and the potential shortcomings of what you do. And then you can start to reverse engineer those into net promoter score questions, and then yeah, you can start to send those out after, like your first clean. If you have recurring clients, you can do that on a quarterly basis after conflict resolution, whatever you see fit. And then you can start to aggregate that, create some average scores. So you can average everything out into those 4 pillars, which was the quality. It can be the communication, the value, and the reliability, that sort of stuff. Then you can create these averages. And if you see the averages are slipping in one of those 4 categories, then you can dig a little bit deeper and see on a micro level where things are falling short. Because we've got these 4 umbrellas, and then in those umbrellas or in those buckets, we've got all of these questions that are being answered. And so your overall quality score, it might be like you might have a lot of people that are rating you high for quality, but your overall score is a little bit low. And it's because there's other questions within that bucket that are being rated lower, if that makes sense. I hope this is making sense to you. And then you can have all these other ones. So, everyone might be happy with the quality, but your communication and your reliability might be slipping. And you probably won't know that the customers are unhappy with that aspect of the service unless you put these surveys out to them. And so a lot of the time, it doesn't matter how happy someone is with the clean. Like if they're just unhappy with the reliability or inconsistent team members showing up and people showing up late every now and then, or the communication from the office just isn't good, like they may just go to the next company. It doesn't matter how happy they are with the cleaning. I've learned this the hard way. I've lost really good clients that were super happy with the cleaning and they paid a lot of money, but I just dropped the ball a few times and, missed it clean, showed up late once or twice, and they ended up just quitting. And, back then I didn't have the foresight I did now, and I didn't know how to really deal with that. And I didn't even realize that was the issue in a lot of cases. So, it's not just about doing good cleaning. Like we are a lot bigger than that. There's a lot of aspects of our service that we don't realize make up the customer's decision to want to stay with us or go somewhere else. It's not just if they're happy with the quality. There's so many other variables. And so we have to be asking these questions and we have to aggregate the answers, and we need to be looking at the averages, and we need to dig deeper. And if we see these detractor scores of 0 to 6, then we need to be asking questions. We need to be following up with the clients and doing our very best to turn them into promoters, into those 9 or 10 scorers, because those are the people that are going to refer. They're going to stick around longer, and they're going to spend more money and make more money for your business. And so long term, you're not going to grow unless you have more promoters. That's the reality. Most people have detractors and they have the passives. The business cannot grow and it cannot be sustained with those. So net promoter scores are really great. I hope that it's a very simple concept. Like you probably see it all the time. Like every time you order like a Domino's pizza, I'm pretty sure they send you an email just asking to rate 1 through 10 on like 4 or 5 different things. Like really, really simple stuff. But you can imagine on a large scale, it's so powerful because you're going to get a really deep insight into how these different aspects of your business are tracking. And otherwise, you're not going to know, because if you just look at the anecdotal evidence, like if you just, ask your cleaners like how they're doing and ask your customers every now and then, like, oh, how's everything going? They're like, yeah, it's good. We're happy. Like you're not going to get the full picture. So you need to be doing surveys like this. And it's, in my opinion, the best form of a survey because it's the lowest ask. It's the one that's going to have the least resistance from the customer, the least amount of friction. And it's also going to give you the full picture of everything that could be possibly going good or going not so good in the business. So yeah, I'm a very big proponent for net promoter scores in any sort of business, especially a cleaning business. Like in a service business, so important because the communication and the customer care side and the customer experience side of the business is so important, probably more important than the cleaning itself, in my experience after doing this for so long now. And so I hope that you can see the importance in this because it's also one of the, not only the highest ROI things that you can do in terms of feedback to really make big improvements in your business and scale up by keeping customers for longer and turning them into referral machines that are going to generate you more revenue. But it's like the easiest thing to implement. You can just come up with a series of like 10 questions. Like you don't even have to make it long. It can be 10 questions that are centered around like quality, value, communication reliability, that sort of thing, or whatever you see fit. Just like map out who your ideal customer is. Hopefully you have a dream customer avatar. Think about the pain points and concerns and desires and wants and needs that they might have. And then you can start to reverse engineer some questions, and you can just turn that into a simple email that you send out. You can even do it manually. Like if you're just starting out and you don't think this is important, this is probably the most important time to be doing this, because it sets the precedent and it lays the foundation for you to run for years and years to come. So, you can set up automations. You can have a service like Typeform that you can create this with, which is what we use, and you can have a CRM like Go High Level that sends these out on a routine basis. You can have it sent out after the first clean, after the first quarter, after conflict resolution, whatever you see fit. And it's the easiest, quickest thing to implement. Like, out of anything I've ever talked about on this podcast, probably the easiest thing you can do. And it's going to have one of the biggest potential upsides in your business. And it's going to help you patch a lot of holes and just generally run a better service that people are going to really love more. And you're going to see an uptick in things like reviews, referrals, and all that sort of stuff. Like our referral base now, I think 30% of the clients that we get now are referral and word of mouth, which is insane. And with the size of our business now, like 30% is a lot. So we have a raving customer base, and we keep customers for a long time. Our average customer sticks around for years, not just a couple months, but years. So it's really, really important that you do this. It's super easy to do, which is the great thing as well, the great thing about it. And so that's what I want you to do. I just want you to map out your customer avatar, think about their pain points and their wants, needs, concerns, desires, etc., and just reverse engineer some questions under those buckets. Or if you think, you can, like if you do commercial cleaning, maybe you're asking other questions as opposed to if you're doing window cleaning, or you have like a maid service, or, you're a carpet cleaner. Just think about what questions you can ask. It's a really simple exercise to do, and then just implement it. Just give it a go. And remember that, you've got those benchmarks. So the 0 to 6, you've got the detractors. Those are not good. Those are the people that are likely to quit or cancel your service or leave a bad review. You've got the passives. They're the people that are like, on the outside, they seem fine. Like if you sent them an email asking how they're doing, they would say good, but they're actually, they're not angry, they're not excited, but they're not ever going to promote you. They're not going to leave a review, and they're probably going to switch to a competitor if an opportunity comes up, or, repeated mistakes happen where you're dropping the ball. So really, really good system to have. And it's such an easy thing to implement. So I would implore you to do so and start to track those numbers religiously. Have a look at the overall averages. And like I said, even if you have, this is great for people that are starting out versus if you have 1,000 customers. It's great because usually when you have a big business and, you've already built up so many customers and staff and all this stuff, it's hard to implement things at a fast pace. But this is one of those things that you can just do at any stage of the journey, and it's really quick to implement and really quick to market. And on the flip side, if you're starting out, you can do this on a really, really easy level. You can literally just send these out manually, and you can get really, really insightful feedback when it matters most. Because when you're starting out, every client that you get and every client that you lose, it really matters, and you really feel it because it shakes the boat. If you got 6 clients and you lose one, you feel that's a big hit to your monthly revenue, right? And so if you're doing these, you're going to get a more fuller sort of picture and insight into what your customers are thinking that you're probably not going to get otherwise, because most people are just okay with what they're getting. They're just kind of good. They're not excited. They're not hating it, but it's just okay. And so you're never really going to create raving fans if they're just okay. And they're not going to refer you work. They're not going to leave reviews, and they're probably not going to stick around for a really long time. So it's a really, really important exercise to do, really high ROI. And it's something I think everyone should do. So hopefully you got something out of that. Hopefully it got the wheels in your head spinning a little bit. I know I was a bit all over the place this episode, but generally I think I got my point across. So that's always good. But yeah, Net Promoter Scores, really, really great way of getting a clear look into your customers' minds without asking them for too much or making them back away in fear, because a lot of people just don't want to be open and honest about their real feedback because it's most people just feel embarrassed about it. If 80% of your customers are those passives where they're scoring 7 to 8, they're happy. They're not going to say anything bad about you, but they're just not, they're not at a promoter score. They're not at a 9 or a 10, so they're not going to be your dream customer. So this is the best way to get into their heads and to get a bit more transparent with what your customers are actually thinking, and really, really easy to implement. You can do it with Typeform. You can do it literally manually. You can just send them like a Google form, which is free. I'd actually recommend doing that. It's pretty good. So if you don't want to spend any money, then you can do it manually. You can set up crazy automations with Go High Level, with like automatic email, SMS follow-ups and all that stuff. Like there's so many possibilities here. So I just wanted to get the wheels in your head turning and get you thinking more in line with this, because it's not something that I think a lot of people would realize. And, we kind of just discount these net promoter scores as like, what's the point really? But if all the big companies do it and they've been doing it for years and years, then I think that's telling of something. And it's telling of the importance of it as a system in your business. So it's something that is fundamental to growing and scaling and, having a better business overall, one that you enjoy running and one that is going to keep you up less at night, and it's going to give you less stress and less anxiety, and you're going to thank yourself for it later. So very simple system, very easy to implement, and one of the most important that I think everyone should be doing. So that is the Net Promoter Score in a nutshell. Hopefully you got something out of this. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you did enjoy this episode, rate me 1 through 10. No, I'm just kidding. But I would really appreciate if you could leave a review on whatever podcasting platform you're listening to this on, whether it be Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Just head down there. It takes 2 seconds. Click on the 5-star rating. And if you're feeling generous, leave a comment about what you loved about this episode or this whole podcast overall, because it really helps me grow the podcast and it helps other people like you find it so that we can all grow together, and I really appreciate it. So with that being said, hope you enjoyed this episode of Self-Made. Have a great rest of your day, week, month, year. Keep crushing it, and we'll speak again soon. Bye.